Welcome back. This is Jay McCluskey, and today we are going to talk about the fifth of our lessons on Introduction to North Cleveland Baptist Church. We're going to talk about our partnerships that we share. I hope you do have your notebook, and you will find the material showing that we are on this fifth section about partnerships. One of the characteristics of a Baptist church is the autonomy of the local congregation. We have talked about that, where we choose our own budget, we hire our own staff, we govern ourselves. And so any relationships that we enter into, whether they are through our denomination, Southern Baptist, or through other organizations that aren't necessarily part of the Southern Baptist Convention, are the choice of the church itself. And so each church uniquely decides about the partnerships that they will have and the degree of which they will relate, the degree of monies that they will give, or the degree of involvement that they might share, whether it is a small amount or it is a grand cooperation that they share together. And so on the top of your outline, you'll find this statement. Our church voluntarily chooses to cooperate with other churches through these organizations in areas of missions and ministry so that we can do more than we might accomplish independently. And there is some power in numbers and efficiency as collectively we can do some things that would be really tough for us to do individually. Easiest example of that is thinking about international missions. Our church might be able to sponsor a few missionaries serving on foreign soil, but in partnership with Southern Baptist and the International Mission Board, there are over 4,000 missionaries serving around the world that we are a part of supporting them. And so that's just on a scale that is easier when there's a lot of working together in a lot of congregations. And so that's why we formulate these partnerships. Now you'll find in your material, I'm going to read to you a lot of what is written there in front of you in some descriptions, and I'll add a few words of commentary as we talk about them. And remember, we did, in looking at our organization, talk about our budget, and most of these, if not all, we are partnering with them financially, and oftentimes more than financially. But you'll see that these are items that are also featured into our budget. So let me walk with you a few of our affiliations that we have, our partnerships. The first is right next door from our church facilities, the CrossNet Baptist Association, formerly known as the Bradley County Association of Baptists. Local associations of churches were the first organizations of Baptist churches to emerge. And my church history professors taught me that. Associational workers emphasized that the first things that Baptists did when we started working together was in the area of local associations. And in days when transportation was much more difficult and communication was much more taxing, we can understand why the local churches would pull their resources together for some common goals and common events and common ministries. Here in Bradley County today, there are approximately 55 churches in the Bradley County Association, in the Bradley County Network, CrossNet, if you would, that fellowship and work together to reach and minister to people. Featured are ministries for disaster relief and Ocoee Outreach Home Projects. And so I'll share a little bit more about those. We do have a good team of folks who help out in disaster relief. So when there is a hurricane or there is flooding, as has been recently in the news, teams come and respond and provide food and provide laundry facilities and shower trailers and things that just if you need some assistance to come into communities. And in the name of Jesus, disaster relief is sometimes some of the very first response on the field in the face of these problems and disasters that have taken place. Ocoee Outreach is a home improvement ministry where we take all the cost off of homeowners, often in disadvantaged situations, and young people, sometimes our local young people. Our church has put together Ocoee Outreach teams that have painted and re-roofed churches. Oftentimes these are teams that come from other areas here and they stay for a week and they spend 4 or 5 days working on a local residence or two in order to provide, again, roofing or painting or landscaping minor repair, whatever it is that they may need. And that, again, takes place through the CrossNet Association. North Cleveland Baptist provides financial support to CrossNet Baptist Association, and we also provide some help with leadership areas. I am coming off and about finished with a 4-year term on what's called the Administrative Development Team that deals with the association on budget and administrative types things. Lanny Green is completing a time on the MDT, Ministry Development Team, which oversees the grand work of the CrossNet Association. So there's some involvement and history of folks who have helped out in a variety of different ways. Some numbers related in our budget. We have 3% of our budget that is given to the CrossNet, with another 1/3 of 1%. And currently 1% of our budget's about $9,000, so 1/3 of 1% is about $3,000. In addition, that we give to the community projects like Ocoee Outreach that I just mentioned, or Project Helping Hands you see listed there, which is a way that in the holiday season, families who need some assistance to make Christmas time meaningful can fill out some information, and then say a Sunday school class may say, we want to help a couple of families, but we want families with children, and they can supply them with names and kind of the wish list for those. Or maybe a Sunday school class or a group says, we'll want to help somebody, but we want to help somebody mostly with food items, and so no children. And so those are things that can be met, and we have a number of years we have allowed our gymnasium to be used kind of for that screening time for those days. These families come and fill out their information and ask for the assistance request, sometimes like in early November, so that when December rolls around, then the connections can be made for those groups who want to help others. That's Project Helping Hands. The next affiliation that you see listed there is the Tennessee Baptist Convention. A bit of the history there, and I won't read you too much of that. I'll let you read that first paragraph yourself. But see, they formulated back in 1833, and then they dissolved for a bit and actually functioned in 3 different conventions in West, East, and Middle Tennessee, and then brought back together in Murfreesboro in 1874. It's just a good time to mention that the uniqueness of the state of Tennessee is that there are 3 geographical areas that are determined by the flow of the Tennessee River. It's here in East Tennessee. It flows from north to south, and then when it reaches down into Alabama, it makes a turn and starts flowing north and cuts through Tennessee again in toward the western part of Tennessee, and it's by this barrier of West, Middle, and East Tennessee. The Tennessee state flag has 3 stars in the middle because of the 3 grand divisions that we share. And years ago, when you entered in to the state and driving down the road, the state said the sign that would welcome you to Tennessee would sometimes say, "Welcome to the 3 states of Tennessee." So that kind of 3-ness there in the history has continued to be identification for our state. North Cleveland Baptist Church, you see, is among 3,200 Baptist churches in Tennessee that fellowship and work together to reach and minister to those in our state. Among their spotlight ministries is the Tennessee Baptist Convention supports 2 colleges, Union University and my alma mater, Carson Newman University, excuse me. It was Carson Newman College when I went there, in Jefferson City, Tennessee. There is one academy, a high school, the King's Academy, some previously known as Harrison Chilhowie Baptist Academy, just south of Knoxville in Seymour, Tennessee. 13 children's home campuses, the closest of which is one in Chattanooga. Number of adult homes, 2 conference centers. I spent a lot of time growing up at what we called Camp Carson. Now it's Carson Springs Conference Center. There is a Camp Linden Conference Center in West Tennessee that is also there, as well as they have staff to serve churches in our state in many areas of outreach and ministry. And it is a good partnership and a good resource for churches of what we do here in Tennessee. Their annual meeting is held in November. to which our church sends messengers. And just to go back to those divisions of the state, the convention will move from a location this coming year, for example, in Middle Tennessee, in the Nashville area. The year after that, it'll go to West Tennessee, usually Memphis or Jackson. And then the year after that, it'll be in East Tennessee, and Knoxville or Johnson City or the Chattanooga area will be oftentimes the host when it's in East Tennessee. So that's just how the convention is functioning. Through a formula known as the cooperative program, ultimately about 5% of our budget becomes part of the Tennessee Baptist Convention operating budget. In addition to what we give to the Tennessee Baptist Convention through the cooperative program, there are additional offerings that are part of ministries under the umbrella of Tennessee Baptist. There is the Golden State offering, which does supplement work that is done by Tennessee Baptists within the state of Tennessee. That is an offering we take up during the Sundays of September. The annual Mother's Day offering on Mother's Days goes to help the ministry of the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And on Father's Day, there is a one Sunday offering that goes to help the Tennessee Baptist Adult Homes. We also give an additional gift to the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. You see there the additional 1/3 of 1%. We're back to about $3,000 additional dollars of our designated offerings given in extra support for the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. So that's the Tennessee Baptist Convention. And I have served on some committees related to Tennessee Baptist Convention work. I was on the Board of Trustees of Carson Newman College for 6 years, and that was an assignment given to me through the Tennessee Baptist Convention, and others in our church have had various leadership positions. The Southern Baptist Convention, the big part of the family, organized in 1845 in Augusta, Georgia, and currently 47,500 Baptist churches in America cooperating together in national and worldwide efforts of missions, reporting a membership in Southern Baptist Convention churches of 15.8 million. And they operate, just kind of break down what that goes to do, they operate 2 mission boards. The International Mission Board, over 4,000 plus missionaries in 126 countries. Again, I mentioned that this is much grander than we could ever accomplish individually. And yet we have a personal connection that Chris and Lori Heil, who grew up in our church, are International Mission Board missionaries in Brazil. And we've sent 6 teams to Brazil over the last 22, 23 years to help support and supplement and complement the work that they do there. There is the North America Mission Board that is headquartered in Alpharetta, Georgia, that helps over 5,000 missionaries in the United States, in the Caribbean, in Canada, and in Guam. And that's the North America Mission Board, particularly focused on church starts and church plants. We find also the Southern Baptist Convention operates 6 theological seminaries in San Francisco area, in Kansas City, Missouri, in Fort Worth, Texas, in New Orleans. There's one in Wake Forest, and then there is in Louisville, Kentucky, my alma mater, Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. And I will say, as a graduate of a Southern Baptist seminary, especially when I was there in the mid-1980s, we very much appreciated the affiliation with the Southern Baptist Convention, the financial support that came through the convention. It helped manage our tuition dollars so that the cost of our seminary education wasn't shouldered just by us students. In fact, only a minority of the cost was shouldered by us students, because endowments and the convention monies that came in very much paid for the majority of it. And it really did help those of us who were young couples and not a lot of this world's means be able to afford graduate school. So a tip of the hat there. Lifeway Christian Resources is the largest religious publishing house in the world. And there's a lot of transition in publishing more into digital formats now, but it is still the largest publishing house in the world. Through a formula called the Cooperative Program, approximately 4% of our church budget goes to support Southern Baptist Convention ministries, though you will see that there is additional monies I'll talk about in a minute that goes to our 2 mission boards in addition to that 4% that's distributed. Speaking of mission boards, let's talk about the International Mission Board that we said a moment ago. Beyond the receipts they receive from the cooperative program, our church gives 2% of our undesignated offerings to the International Mission Board. So that's going to be about $18,000 in a given year based on our current budget. And also the Lottie Moon offering. That is our largest over and above offering that we give throughout the year, historically and consistently. And our Lottie Moon offering comes in December time. Sometimes it carries over into January. But our offering most recently is over $26,000. And we've always been kind of in the high 20s of late. One of these days we're going to hit that $30,000 number. But we are proud of the gifts that we give, and we know that it helps Chris and Lori Heil and 4,000 plus other missionaries that are on the field serving throughout the world. On the North American Mission Board side, in addition to what they receive through the cooperative program monies that we give through that formula, beyond the receipts they receive the cooperative program, there it is, our church gives 1%, again in that case it's around $9,000 in addition, of undesignated offerings to the International Mission Board. Plus, there is the Annie Armstrong offering that goes to supplement the work that they do. That is part of the Easter season that we share. And especially this past year, it wasn't really because we come up with a grand new effective way to promote the offering. It just, there was an exceptional spirit of generosity that came through. And so our offering exceeded for the first time $10,000, $10,700 in fact. Totally that was given this past year to the Annie Armstrong offering, to the glory of God, and to the work of North America Mission Board that they do in the countries that we described there. In addition then, we'll go down to Tennessee Baptist Collegiate Ministries. It's part of the Tennessee Baptist Convention work, but we do send a little extra just to our local collegiate ministries here. There's a building right next to the campus at Cleveland State Community College that houses the Tennessee Baptist Collegiate Ministry locally, both for Cleveland State College and Lee University. And they have a new leader, a new director named Grace, and she's doing a great job. She worshiped in our church recently with some of the students there, and looking forward to the continued good work that they have done. Steve Roper from our church family came to Bradley County and came to be a part of our church because he was assigned the work at the local Baptist Collegiate Center. And so we have some connections, deep connections there through this. Most of the remaining items that I'll list receive in the current budget about $2,000 per year that we distribute quarterly to them, and oftentimes we do more than just the money dollars amount. And the first is a good example of that is Family Promise. Family Promise is a local ministry to homeless families in transition. Our church is a founding member of that organization. When I first was told about it, I thought this is something we can do. We have plenty of great folks in our church who can cook and provide meals for families in need, who we have space that we can provide for this, and we have wonderful, loving people who will give in ministry and the scales and the degrees of need. And so actually the very first week that a family in transition was housed through Family Promise, it was here at North Cleveland Baptist Church. And in typical times, the church annex is converted to some bedrooms where those families can stay, one or two families typically. There's a couple of guest rooms that are converted for overnight hosts from our church family. My wife and I stay on Wednesday night of that week. We always take Wednesday night and stay overnight in case there's an overnight need that occurs and takes place. Family Promise just takes all the expenses away from people so they can establish housing for these families. And they do have to be families with children, and they are screened. And so that's a great ministry we have, as folks who will provide food, who will eat dinner with folks, who will stay overnight, who will set up and take down, and a number of other things. So we have a long partnership now for probably more than a dozen years with Family Promise, if not longer. Ocoee Middle School partnership is our partner school. Ron Spangler, before his retirement a few years ago, one of our members was the principal at Ocoee Middle School. And so it's a very natural thing saying, how can our church help the local school systems? And how could we be more intentional about this, so we adopted in a partnership with Ocoee Middle School. It's oftentimes we have had their faculty here like the first of the year or the first when they came back after the Christmas holidays, that we've hosted a breakfast here and fed them as the teachers are about to go back for their planning times and get ready. We have provided sometimes monthly little encouragements to the teachers there. I don't personally have a lot of hands-on work with this. I'm proud of that just some compassionate people in our church kind of see that this takes place, and so we're giving some treats on a regular basis and some affirmations to the staff who work very hard for the children in their care in the school system. So that has taken place. The Leggett Family Ministry is also in our budget. It really goes back more than 20 years ago when Chris and Jackie Leggett and their 4 children went on the mission field into the northern country of Mauritania in North Africa. And Chris was killed as a martyr doing the good Lord's work there, and the family came back stateside. Jackie has continued to have a burden for ministry, especially ministry to internationals. And so she and her new husband's family merging together, doing good international ministry, and we consider them an extended part of our church family, and we're very proud when we can sponsor them in some ways. And occasionally we've had some events here for the internationals in our area where they've brought their cuisine and food or the desserts and things, and it's been a great fellowship to share together in the good work that they do, and glad that we can be of assistance to them. The New Hope Crisis Pregnancy Center is a ministry we focus a lot in January around the sanctity of human life emphasis time. We are proud to have a long partnership with New Hope and the good leadership that they have there, and to support them and the volunteerism that takes place too. Right now they are about to have an event this coming Saturday that is called the Walk for Life. And some of our people in our church are participating in that and getting sponsorships. And our Girls in Actions, our elementary school age girls, are going to be a part of that walk. And so there is some very good work that's done there on the ground floor level of all the engagement of the families and the littlest ones in our church. Foundation House has come into our church ministries. A few years ago, our Vacation Bible School offering went to Foundation House to help some scholarship, as you can see what it does, that assists single moms and their children. And so it's providing job skills and life skills for these folks. It's kind of like the New Hope Ministry encourages and enables pregnant ladies to bring their child into the world, and then Foundation House is going to help them transition into a stable, lasting environment so they can find housing and they can have jobs that will provide for things. And so good work that has taken place toward independence and a higher quality of life. The Caring Place. It's a benevolence ministry here in our community. It is faith-based, and it covers a number of different denominations in their care that are represented in our community. And if you ask me, Jay, does North Cleveland Baptist have a food pantry or a clothes closet for the needy? I would say no, because the Caring Place provides one many, many more times better than we possibly could. And they do it effectively and efficiently, and they know the best way to how to care for people, and they can get the most bang for their buck in stocking their food pantry and such. We appreciate the good work that they do there at the Caring Place off of Wildwood Road, and so we're grateful for that partnership that we have with them. The Cleveland Community Shelter, a little further out Wildwood Avenue, is just that place if you got to have a place to stay and you need a place. So it'll provide a roof over your head and a bed for you to sleep on, a little bit of food to get you through some things for the homeless population. I know out here there's some plans of projection for a new facility for them, which would be great, but we're glad it's there, and in the very small way that we participate in supplying some funds so that its doors may be open to those who are in very dire need of a place to stay. You see the name Caros there is a ministry for incarcerated individuals, and first name you see there is Buddy Arnold, that had some some history and a burden and a champion that he wanted to be for our church to be involved with this. Janelle Martin has helped out in some of the work for ladies who are incarcerated in women's prisons, and Larry Grimes has assisted too, and perhaps some others. We oftentimes have a call for cookies for weekend events in these prison settings that provide a spiritual retreat, just a focused spiritual retreat for these people, and to point them to Jesus and to love on them with grace. And so there are some good things that take place there, supplying some needs that can be addressed, and especially sharing the gospel with them. Freedom's Promise is a Tennessee-based ministry working to prevent human trafficking in Cambodia and in Myanmar. A good friend of mine was on the board for Freedom's Promise and said, you need to get to know this ministry, and worked it out so that one of their leadership was coming through town, and we met together, and everything I heard I liked. And frankly, I liked the idea that our congregation would be intentional in trying to address, even in a small way, the global problem of human trafficking. And it's, again, a faith-based ministry in Jesus' love and Jesus' name. And the more I know about it, the more I like it. And so we've been sharing more and more about this ministry, and has been into our budget for a number of years. Track Through Truth is a localized effort, an endeavor to create a children's Bible museum here in Bradley County. Doug Kaywood, who has family connections to our church, is one of the principal leaders of this, and we are glad to support that effort. One day when it bears its fullness and fruit and is open, I know we will be very proud that we were part of it from some of its earliest beginnings. The 4Cs program was once known as a rocket program, and goes back to when Jeff Elliott was the principal at Cleveland Middle School. Dawn Cox, another of our members, Jason Cox, our student minister's wife, was on the faculty there, and they had a ministry set up to help some of the disadvantaged children with some supplies or funding so they could participate in some things they may not be able to participate in. And so that has continued to be a burden for our church, our ability to help out in this small way. And so we have some funds and finances that help to them. Open Eyes Ministry. In 2019, a group from our church worked in Honduras with Open Eyes Ministry for the first time, and their mission was to provide evangelical and social services. They did feeding ministry. They were helping out in an orphanage in Honduras for the disadvantaged, and the word disadvantaged doesn't give that idea justice. You know, it is just the very disadvantaged, the poorest of the poor, impoverished and orphaned at the same time in many of these cases. The team returned with a contagious conviction for the church to partner deeply in this good work. And I will always say, you know, we send people on mission teams and we change those people's lives. Not the ones ministering to so much, but the ones that come back. They come back different people, having ministered and seen the Lord's work and blessed because of that. But when they came back, I said, man, this is to an even higher degree and level than we typically see. And so we began to, how can we support? How can we help this ministry and let it continue on? And so beyond the budget gift, a significant amount of financial support is given to Open Eyes Ministries through individuals, through some earmark gifts that are given in our congregation for the last couple of years. When we finish the year and our budget has received a little more money than we've spent out, some of that overage has gone to Open Eyes Ministries, and we know that it is getting used in quality ways through this. There's a mission support line item in our budget, and I wanted to explain what that was about. We put 3% of our undesignated funds in there, and it's used to sponsor our members involved in short-term mission endeavors. And so, particularly if we're taking a group overseas, and I've mentioned trips to Brazil, I've mentioned trips to Honduras, these trips can cost between $1,500 and $2,500. And so not wanting to ask the people going to have to pay the full cost, we offer scholarships and sponsorships, hopefully to cover at least half. And so that's what that line item is there for, just so that we can take a little of the financial sting out of those who really want to go, but it might be a super hardship for them to do so. Also, one of our newest partnership is the Isaiah 117 House that provides a loving, caring environment for children that have been taken out of some dangerous home situations, and they're on their way into foster care. But it gives them, in that transition, a caring, loving, wonderful place. The house has just recently been completed, and we had some volunteers in our church that played some roles in construction there, and we are proud of the help that we've given. Just recently, we had, I called it a pajama party throughout August of this year. So we collected pajamas, and at the end of the month, we gave those to the Isaiah 117 house. So when children come in, sometimes with just the clothes on their back, their pajamas, we collect diapers and just things for those initial hours of need. At the bottom there, I say, what are some of the advantages of these affiliations? Well, I'm glad you asked, and we'll just highlight a few things as we wrap our study up for this time. It allows us to identify with other Christians and other churches in our community, our state and our nation, and around the world with whom we share common faith and practice. And so we have a connectedness, and so we're supporting, as Southern Baptists, we're supporting 4,000 missionaries, and so are Southern Baptist churches throughout our community and throughout our nation. So we're proud of that, so we can pull together in these good ministries. Second, it allows us to participate in a missionary organization that goes far beyond what an individual congregation can accomplish. As I said, we could put a missionary or two maybe on the field and all the cost involved with that, but we can help put 4,000 on the field and overseas ministries through the International Mission Board and what we collectively do together. Third, it gives us fellowship with other Christians and other churches, and sometimes in some dynamics of relationships of ministries that people we wouldn't meet or fellowship with. I'll use this for an example. I volunteer as a chaplain here at the local hospital, so 1 or 2 weeks a year I'm the chaplain on duty and the chaplain on call. But we have meetings 2 or 3 times a year with all the chaplains, and they're from all the denominations represented in our area. And frankly, there are just some good people in ministry I wouldn't meet. I wouldn't know them personally if I wasn't a part of affiliated with the chaplain's work. And so it allows me to know some people doing kingdom work, and I'm blessed because of that, and I hope they're blessed from me. So again, in our churches, if we're helping out things like Family Promise, which is multiple denominational churches that work with it, or some other of these ministries that are going to draw from many different congregations, there's a common link that we have together we wouldn't have otherwise. And last, it gives us the opportunity to speak with greater influence on matters of moral and spiritual concern. So that, for example, with things of the caring place, providing food and providing clothing, and sometimes things like utilities or rent assistance that they oversee, that is a way with a larger degree we can address some of those community problems that take place, and we can know a little bit more about homelessness, and we can know a little bit more about hardships and poverty because of these affiliations that we have with these ministries that really are on the front lines taking care of these all the time. So those are some of the good reasons. I'm sure you can come up with even more, that having partnerships together. And one of the uniqueness, again, of our church is the formulation of which partnerships. There's so much good work to be done. And really kind of one of the guiding things that has marked my tenure as pastor on these was, is there somebody in our church? Maybe it's a staff person, maybe it's a lay person. Is there somebody in our church that really has a passion for this, who will be the person who say, I believe in this ministry, and we say, because we believe in you and you're for it, so that we have those connections that we share together. And so we're glad to have those. We're proud of our affiliations. It's very fluid. It changes. It gets tweaked on for a variety of reasons that more get added to it. Sometimes some get kind of ahead their time, and we move on to some other things. But those are the affiliations that we have right now, and we're very proud of those. I look forward to meeting with you next time we get to our next study, our 6th, and it is going to be about some of the unique qualities of North Cleveland Baptist Church. What is unique about our congregation specifically? I look forward to sharing those with you. Meanwhile, have a blessed day.